and I was having such a nice day. Hello YouTube, I'm Darkest101, and it's fucking Daredevil. Seriously, why? Why the actual fuck do you want me to do this? I mean, seriously guys, I saw Deadpool, alright? Motherfucking Deadpool at a midnight release in fucking D-Box. Why do you want to ruin superhero movies for me by having me review Daredevil? Seriously. What did I do to you guys to deserve this punishment? We may as well start somewhere. Daredevil, everybody. Before we start, I'm gonna try not to compare the movie to the Netflix series because this film already has enough of a handicap as it is. No pun intended. While I will not let the Daredevil Netflix series detract from the Daredevil movie, I am not above using the Netflix series to compare and contrast a few points here or there. So, just letting you know in advance. And again, before we start, you have no idea how hard writing this review was. I mean, what can I actually say about this movie? People have ripped this movie to shit ever since its first release. They have ripped this film to so many shreds and found one good thing about it. That it wasn't the spin-off. I swear the best marketing campaign for the Daredevil film right now is to start printing DVD covers with critical quotes saying, "At least it's not Elektra." First of all, elephant in the room, the obvious, Ben Affleck. Okay, his performance isn't bad, alright? I don't find his performance deplorable. I mean, okay, it's not the best superhero portrayal ever committed in cinema, but hey, it's not Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze bad, and it's not Tommy Lee Jones Two-Face ridiculous, you know? The problem I have with Ben Affleck in this role is him. It's not his performance before you start jumping on me or anything. It's his face. You know? Whenever you can see his whole face, whenever he doesn't have the mask on, he looks babyface. He looks too young for the role, you know? Also, that hair is a little too... I don't know, it just looks dumb. Although, if we are going to be talking about bad hairdos, have you seen this shit lately? I've seen train wrecks in better condition. The costume isn't half bad. I mean, I like the Daredevil costume, but you gotta ask where he got all this stuff from, you know? I mean, from the specially constructed apartment, the sensory deprivation tank. Okay, if you're trying to tell me he sleeps in that motherfucking thing, I call bullshit straight away, movie. The tools, the costume, and all the backups of both, the triple safe combination lock to the rooftop entrance to his apartment. Yeah, he has one of those. You're gonna wonder where this money came from, you know? I mean, his buddy is constantly going on about how they need more clients who can pay more money than they're currently getting, and yet Murdoch can afford all of this shit? The fuck? Also, what's with the stick, Murdoch? I mean, seriously, what sort of wizardry are you using? It's his blind man cane, a grappling hook, nunchucks, a bow staff, and then it's 2 mini staffs. What the actual shit? The laws of common sense dictate that if a cable is connecting these 2 sticks, they cannot completely separate. 2 ways is also kind of how the music goes for this movie. Half the time it sounds like it would be better suited to a video game. The other half, it sounds like it just does not belong in a movie whatsoever, you know? The way the music clashes in this movie is insane. I mean, in one scene, you've got this emotional, heavy metal, music, alternate rock crap, and next you've got R&B, gangster rap singing sort of shit, and I'm just like, what the fuck's even going on? Whoever did the soundtrack for this movie should be taken out back and shot. And, don't need to brag, but my fees are very reasonable. The way they show Murdoch's sonar vision reminds me of the detective mode from the Arkham games as well. It works, but it kind of looks a little too clean. Just so you're aware, I did not feel clean coming out of this movie whatsoever. Ugh. The movie starts off with the titular Daredevil collapsing inside a church, as we have the whole life flashes before the eyes cliche, back to when Matt Murdock was a young lad. He's beaten up by some bullies and returns home to his father. And I'm not gonna lie, the relationship between the father and son is the best in the movie. I mean, yes, I prefer the Netflix series take on it a little more because it was a little more humorous, so we saw more of it. But for what we get in this movie, it's not bad. It's a good father-son dynamic. It is undoubtedly, hands down, the best relationship shown in this movie. I mean, the romance, that can go fuck off. This is just so much better. Matt ends up with some crap in his eyes and as such ends up blind, but with his remaining senses heightened, particularly his sense of hearing. His dad is then promptly murdered by enemies unknown. Years later, Matt and his friend Frank own a law firm. Because justice is blind. Ha 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 ha. Funny. Whilst also being a lawyer, of course, Murdoch uses his super senses to fight crime. And also creepily smell girls who pass coffee shops.
What? Where?
Front door. Not yet, soon. Now.
And it's shit like this that made sure I would never feel clean watching this movie again.
Now. God, that's so fucking creepy.
This isn't something that goes away, by the by. It comes back, and it's just as creepy as it is here. Okay, so yeah, after trying to pick up the girl who he smelled, still trying to forget how creepy that sounds. Of course, she's not really interested, because who would be if a blind man was following them? And then there's this shit. Okay, the action in this movie can be pretty damn good. It can be pretty decent. But oh my god, what is this shit? Why? Why? Why do we need Matt and Elektra to be fighting in a children's... What the... I wish I could have been there in the cinema when this movie first came out. Because I want to hear how the audience laughed seeing this scene. Or maybe how they laughed at this next bit.
My name's Electra Nachos.
No, you can't be fucking... You can't be fucking serious. You can't... No. You've got to have made that. I'm done. There's nothing. That's the best joke in this movie. I just looked it up. She's actually fucking called that in the comics. She's actually called Electra Nachos. Wow, that's dumb. We then cut to Electra's father talking to the Kingpin. Upon realizing that Electra's dad wants out of their criminal dealings, he hires a hitman named Bullseye to take him out. And honestly, Bullseye's the best damn thing about this movie. When Bullseye's on the screen, it's fan-fucking-tastic. He just steals the goddamn show, and I love it. It is clear, right from the get-go, he does not give a flying fuck about how he comes across. He knows how dumb the film is. In fact, I'm pretty sure he knew that this movie was going to suck eggs and decided he was just going to have fun with the movie. If that isn't a reason for this masterpiece of a performance, then the director must have been fucking balmy. I know the director must have been trying, but he was clearly smoking something when he was making this movie. I am seriously hopeful that Marvel have kept him away from every project after Daredevil. Jesus Christ, Marvel, what's wrong with you? You've literally provided this guy with 50% of his filmography since the release of Daredevil. What the fuck? Don't believe me? He was producer for Elektra, writer-director for Ghost Rider, and again producer for Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. He's only done 6 movies since Daredevil, and 3 of them were Marvel. What the fuck? Elektra invites Matt out to a fancy evening where her father leaves early when he realizes Kingpin has hired a hit on him. Everyone then pretty much ends up outside somehow as Daredevil fails to stop Bullseye from killing Elektra's father with one of his mini-sticks. Even though we've seen before that this stick totally isn't capable of puncturing human flesh, let alone breaking through the sternum and stabbing through the heart. And how the fucking hell did Bull throw this thing that fucking far? I know this is all necessary to create some forced conflict between Matt and Elektra, but even so, how did Bullseye transform this bludgeoning weapon, which we have clearly seen is not capable of puncturing human flesh? How did he make it go through a man's heart? Bearing in mind he has to go for the sternum first. So obviously Elektra's pissed off that Daredevil apparently killed her father, and Matt is pissed that Elektra no longer wants to ride the blind man's cane, which in your bed, Matt, will probably be kind of a traumatizing experience. Somehow Elektra and Daredevil find each other on the rooftop, and Daredevil lets Elektra kick 7 shades of shit out of him because he wants to talk things through. Elektra, however, has gone full Raphael at this point and stabs him. Like, legit stabs him through his left shoulder. She fucking impales him. Runs him through. Stabs him completely through the shoulder. Which, if comic books abided by the rules of real life, he'd probably bleed out in, what, 2 minutes? Come on, he was literally punctured through the shoulder. There's got to be some major arteries in there. Elektra then takes off the mask and reveals Matt as Daredevil, and she suddenly realizes maybe she should have listened to both sides of the argument before Bullseye comes along and stabs her as well. They both have to escape the police, and they wind up at the church from earlier. And here we partake in a 5-minute fight scene with some rubbery as shit CGI. Also, just look at some of these moves. Look at some of these moves Daredevil pulls off. Remember how he was bleeding out near death a few minutes ago and has a fucking hole in his shoulder? How in the literal holy hell is he not dead yet? Speaking of holy hell, Daredevil manages to avoid being killed by Bullseye by diverting a police sniper shot to go straight through his hands. Blatant Jesus image is blatant. Tossing Bullseye out the window, Daredevil races across the city, again with a fucking hole in his shoulder, and fights the Kingpin, again with a fucking hole in his shoulder. The fight is initially one-sided because Daredevil is fucking dying, obviously, and yet somehow this is tied to him, quote unquote, not seeing him right. So he gets the sprinkler system or something off so he can get a permanent view of the Kingpin, and suddenly then he can beat the crap out of him. And somehow he gets thrown in jail because, I don't know. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Daredevil. So is it as bad as everyone remembers it? I don't know. It's boring. It's bland. It's overtly broody and moody. It's a dull film and the action doesn't help it in any way. The romance between Elektra and Matt is forgettable and uninteresting, and the score is poorly constructed. The performances are pretty good though, and the origin story for Daredevil is pretty well constructed. There is an interesting side note, however, to this whole thing in the director's cut of the movie. The director's cut features half an hour of content left out of the theatrical release relating to something that was desperately needed in the theatrical release: Matt Murdock's day job. Part of what ended up making the Netflix series so good was what sort of crime detective investigators that Matt and the team ended up doing, and in the movie it works too. There's a subplot about a druggie who's accused of killing a young girl that explains why the Kingpin ends up getting arrested. Now, does this extra content save the movie? No. Like the rest of the movie, it's long, it's drawn out, and it's just kind of a little confusing and nonsensical here and there. I mean, there is technically an investigation, but there's no real decent evidence. It's just a bunch of scenes and vignettes, pretty much, that try and tie up this little side story. Daredevil is a boring and barely interesting movie. It's kind of dull in the same vein as Max Payne, but unlike Max Payne, Daredevil doesn't have that third act to keep it from being totally awful. And with all that in mind, I think Daredevil gets a dark rating of 15.
I don't know why you read that trash.
There, I've done it. I've reviewed Daredevil, okay? Just don't make me review any more bad superhero movies, alright? So long as we got that clear, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you have a suggestion for a later review, please drop it in the comment section below. And as always, I've been Darkest101. You have been watching Darkest101 Reviews. Thanks for watching. Good night, YouTube. Hey YouTube, I'm Darkest101, and I'm sorry this review of Daredevil has come out over a month late. I am so sorry. It's just university exams have come up, and yeah, it's been a bit of a busy time for me at the moment. A lot of revising, a lot of catching up on a little bit of work I've missed. Real life stuff happened, and apart from anything else, just sitting editing this stinker of a movie was one of the most tedious experiences I've ever had to do. Turns out I don't like editing movies for some reason. Anyway, it's not the point. I hope that my editing schedule gets back into traction. I hope I can start making regular content for you properly again. Regardless, I'm so sorry this happened. Please forgive me. I'm really sorry. I'll get back to doing my job now. See you next time.